Welcome back to Mondays with Madeline. Today we have a very special treat in store. This book, From Crook to Cook, Snoop Dogg, because a dog's gotta eat too, y'all. This book cracks me up. Everything about it is just awesome. First off, you know, Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart are now buddies. I guess what they have been for a while. She does the opening words for this book, which is really, really sweet, and talks about how they met, and it's pretty short, but you know, if you look on this first page, it's got a picture of the two of them together. The writing of this book, I mean, first off, it's very attractive, the outside of it, with the gold on here, and the writing, though, is a little bit hard to read. And the way they have it set up, like this is like the chapter selection, so it's kind of almost all over the place when you first look at it. And honestly, some of the recipe pages and stuff, like this one, the biscuits, you know, the thickness gravy, you know, these little things and stuff like that are a little bit harder to read. But overall, the book itself has quite a few recipes that are actually really useful in your everyday kitchen and are relatable and fairly easy to do. Some of them are a little more complicated, but there's quite the range of different types of recipes, from breakfast to dinner and baking and drinks and snacks and all sorts of stuff. The best part about this book, I think, is the little snippets of what Snoop Dogg's saying. I remember Snoop Dogg from my childhood as, you know, being, you know, super gangster, you know, gin and juice, that whole deal. And most people do too, so seeing him in this more domestic kind of setting is fascinating to me, and I kind of love it. One of the things I think is funny is that throughout the entire book he's wearing a do-rag and a wife beater. So that cracks me up. And then just these little snippets of things he's writing and the way he says them, I've giggled a lot. My sister came over and she saw this book and she started reading it, and she was laughing so hard at the little snippets, and she just thought it was like the coolest thing she's seen in a while. So recommendation-wise, this is a cool book. It's even funny, it's even cool just to have as like a talking piece in your home. I mean, obviously, if you don't like Snoop Dogg, then, you know, well, what's wrong with you, first off? Because who could not like Snoop Dogg? But I think what else is really cool about this book is he's got this whole page that's like in my pantry. He talks about what's in his pantry at home, what's in his refrigerator. I love that one of the things in here, Pop-Tarts. Okay, he likes to keep Pop-Tarts and Kraft macaroni and cheese in his pantry. You know, he's just a super normal dude. You know, when you think of him, you don't necessarily think of it on this level, like what he keeps in his house. One of the things under his breakfast section that he says is that he's more of a cereal kind of guy, and he likes Lucky Charms. So, you know, it's just little funny things like that. And then on the same note, in the refrigerator section, he's got Moet. If you're not familiar with what Moet is, it's champagne. And it's not a cheap champagne. It's not like the most expensive one you could buy in the whole world either, but it's a decent champagne. And it's so basically under this page, it's got like descriptions of why he has these little things. And under the Moet section, it says, sometimes you just gotta embrace that rap star lifestyle. I like to enjoy a glass of bubbly now and then, and when I do, I gotta have the best. That's why I keep a bottle of Moet chilled. I stay ready to get it poppin'. My kind of man, because I like the bubbly too. So from there, you know, there's just all these really funny little snippets, and it's got this is the list of what type of recipes he's going to cover in the breakfast section. Once again, it's a little bit harder to read, this writing and the way they've got it set up. It's a little you know, less, I guess, well organized. It kind of looks, when I first look at the page, it's harder for me to read when it comes to, you know, a cookbook in general. The other, my only other complaint about this book is the texture of the pages. I was looking at it earlier, in certain lights you can see it better than others, but the pages take on fingerprints and grease and things like that really, really well, and then the pages don't look quite as nice. I was a little bit disappointed by that, especially it being a cookbook, and if you're actually using it in the kitchen, this book is going to be really easy to mess up your pages. To work extra clean, I guess. By the way, here's his cereal page. That's how much this man likes cereal. I respect that. I also like Lucky Charms. My husband doesn't let me have them though. Anyway, I picked a couple of recipes out of here that we're gonna do. Something that I thought would be fun and interesting. And we're gonna start with some ribs. If I can find the page. It's called Baby Got Back Ribs. Can you believe it? It's a fairly simple recipe overall, but I think it's really solid. We're gonna make these along with his Boss Lady's mac and cheese. And Boss Lady is his wife. And I love that he calls her Boss Lady. This is the mac and cheese over here, his recipe. Once again, this is one of those kind of weird setups, like the color on the pages and everything like that is a little bit, when I first looked at this, I was like, where's the recipe? Because the colors threw me off. But, you know, I love what he talks about on here about mac and cheese and his love of mac and cheese and it being a certain way, made a certain way, and that his woman knows how to cook it right for him. It's fantastic. If you get this book, you just got to go through and read all these little snippets that he writes. They're awesome. I thoroughly enjoy it. So I'm gonna get started by getting the rub made for these baby back ribs and getting them in the oven because they take 1.5 to 2 hours to cook. So we're gonna just roll right into that. So Snoop Dogg's Baby Got Back Ribs. Super simple, nothing too crazy, only a few ingredients. A classic rub with salt, pepper, brown sugar, paprika, garlic powder, cayenne. I love ribs, by the way, and I think that this recipe overall, like just looking at the recipe, I think it's going to be a really good solid recipe. He's actually even got a reference on the page to the type of barbecue sauce you should use. He suggests one or says to use one out of the book. And we're going to make the one out of the book because I want it the way Snoop Dogg does it. Apparently Snoop Dogg is now a masterful chef as well, you know, with a little help from Martha Stewart and anyone else. He thanks a bunch of people in the book for it. You should read it. Seriously. Whenever I make a rub, especially with brown sugar in it, I like to use a whisk to kind of mix it in at first. Just because a lot of times, you know, you're packing your brown sugar and you want to get everything really well mixed in there. Smells pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna just sprinkle some on the top of these first. Then you're gonna press it on there. You're supposed to coat both sides with this rub. You know, pretty standard for if you're into doing barbecue of any kind. You know, you've probably made ribs before. It's not like this is like a super special thing, but that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. You know, I didn't want to try to pick anything weird out of his book. I wanted to just stick with something that's super relatable, and just in general from the recipes that he's chosen for this book, he seems kind of like a super relatable kind of guy, to tell you the truth. When I wrap mine in foil, I like to make sure I do a really nice long piece so I can lay lay my rib right in there in the center. And I'm gonna go ahead and fold it over like this. I'm basically doing it, kind of like wrapping it. I'm trying to use only one piece of foil. All right, that's all there is to it. And then these are gonna go in the oven for 1.5 to 2 hours. You wanna make sure you check them at 1.5 hours. And then once we get to that point, we'll revisit and we'll show you how to finish it. So, Snoop Dogg's barbecue sauce. Another thing I like about this one, it's fairly simple, mostly ingredients that you'd already have in your house. The one thing that I'd say you may not have is apricot preserves. In this recipe, he's basically using this as a sweetener. I think it's great, to tell you the truth. Apricot preserves are a really, really great sweetener, and frankly, barbecue sauces really lend well to any sort of fruit. I will say there's one ingredient in this that I was kind of surprised to see, and that was the yellow mustard. Smells pretty good. That's it. Okay, so now our pork ribs are done. I ended up letting them go about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Mine need a little bit longer in there. You know, ovens differ sometimes in the way they heat, so you know that's one of those things you kind of always check. The next steps in this process, you're supposed to pull them out, let them stay wrapped, and let them sit while you preheat your oven to the highest broiler setting. Mine's 500. And let that, and get the rack in the top position, because the next thing we're going to do is try to get these to brown. So I've already been doing that. My oven is preheated. You're going to remove these from the foil. Now, when I made mine, I had a little bit of a chunky problem with that apricot preserves. So I went and strained mine through a little strainer, and now it's perfect and smooth. It smells great still. I think it's going to be really, really good on this. Now that we've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and stick it back in the oven. And I'll let them get browned. Got all the ingredients ready, and we're gonna get started on those. Once these are done in the oven, we can go ahead and pull them out, and they need to rest covered for 10 minutes. And while they're doing that, we're gonna do our macaroni and cheese and get that at least in the oven and ready to rock, because if this is a baked mac and cheese, you know, for being from California, it's a very southern style macaroni and cheese recipe. It's very classic. I don't know where Snoop Dogg's wife is from, but the boss lady knows what's up when it comes to mac and cheese. I'm very excited about this recipe for sure. I think it's going to be fantastic. A little bit longer, but they smell great and they look great. I mean, like really, truly look great, smell great. I'm actually pretty excited about it. I think these recipes in his book are pretty solid, pretty spot on. Okay. And that was for my noodles. Let's take a little, yeah, these are good to go. Okay. I mean, look at these. They're not quite finished yet, but I'll do one more swipe with the sauce. Pop it back in here. Almost there. Let's see a little Sneak peek bite. Ooh. Solid. My D-O-double-G.
Bow wow wow yippee oh yippee yay. Bow wow wow yippee oh yippee yay. Bow wow wow yippee oh yippee yay. Bow wow yippee oh yippee yay.
Snoop Doggy Dogg. Suckers. That was super, super killer. We're almost there. Almost there. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna put timer on for 10 more minutes. Alright, all you Snoop Dogg fans. Our baby got back ribs. They got back and they are done. Look at these. They look so friggin' incredible and they smell amazing. We're gonna go right here with them. I mean, stunning. Let me just say that the smell on them is fantastic. They have all the classic ingredients for barbecue and being great. Hey Snoop Dogg, this is my 2-year-old that I was talking about. It's hard to work with. Say hi to the camera.
Hi.
Hey. Anyway. We've got these out now, and what we're going to do next is we're going to cover them. I'm going to cover them with a little bit of tin foil, and we're going to let them rest for at least 10 minutes. During those 10 minutes, we're going to go ahead and jump over and we're going to do our mac and cheese sauce, and we're going to get that popped in the oven. So let me get that done. Let me see if I can do something with this kid, because, I mean, you see, right? Okay. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to put it in my pan. I'm going to put it on medium heat. We're making a roux. If you don't know what a roux is, it's basically flour and butter. And it's a thickening agent. It's what's going to make our cream and our milk thick. You want to make sure you keep this low because you don't want to burn your butter. Burning your butter is always not a good thing. And then you're going to cook it for basically we're going to add equal parts butter to flour. And once we throw the flour in, you're going to want to make sure you cook that for 2 to 3 minutes. Basically to get the raw flour taste out of it. You're cooking the flour so it doesn't taste weird. If you don't cook it long enough, it'll retain this weird taste and it's awful. So Boss Lady's dog definitely knows how to make, or Boss Lady's dogs, Boss Lady knows how to make a roux. Because that's what she tells you to do, is cook it for a couple of minutes before you add anything else in. So I'm impressed. I wasn't sure that these recipes in this book were going to be serious or not, and to tell you the truth, they're pretty good. So I'm pretty happy. Here we go. We're making our roux. You want to give it a look. Basically, when you make a roux, you're getting like a slightly loose peanut butter sort of consistency to your butter and your flour. Don't burn your roux. You want to make sure you keep stirring it as you're doing that. You'll be able to smell it actually, like as it cooks. It'll start to take on like a slightly nutty flavor, which is a really good indicator that it's cooked long enough. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and slowly start adding in my milk to this. Watch your hands as you do this because it'll steam up and you don't want to burn yourself. You want to make sure when you're doing this that you get it hot enough to melt the cheese properly. And when you're doing the cheese, it says, even in this book, it says to gradually add your cheese to your mixture. And that's because if you add it too fast or all at once, it won't melt properly. It'll take on a grainy consistency, which nobody wants grainy mac and cheese. All right, so now we're nice and thick, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding my cheese to this. If you want a nice finely shredded mac or cheese for this type of thing, so it melts in there perfectly. His sauce in particular is very thick, and it's because it's going to be a baked mac and cheese. It's a style that we're going with. You don't want it to be runny at all. I appreciate that. I don't like runny mac and cheese either. I'm going to go ahead and just turn that off. Okay, now that we've got our cheese melted in there, it looks like the perfect amount. It's got a great color to it. We're going to go ahead and add in our mustard. It's dried mustard. Oops. Don't throw your container in there. I'll stop with. All right, pepper, cayenne, our nutmeg, and our Worcestershire. It's a great sauce so far. I'm really pleased with it. The texture is fantastic. It's very nice. So we've got our salt too already measured out. I'm gonna just taste it. It's smooth. It's perfectly smooth too. It's good. We're going to toss our salt in there. You know, some recipes they call for a certain amount of salt, but then that's not enough, or it's too much, or whatever. On point. And here goes our sour cream to this mixture. Once again, I've never done sour cream in my sauce before, so I'm kind of curious about the way this is going to taste. But I like sour cream, so you know, maybe it'll give it an extra little tang to it. That's what I'm thinking. Really good. Really good. I'm very excited about this. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and add my noodles. The texture of this sauce is really nice and velvety and smooth, and I'm very pleased about it. The flavor is really, really wonderful and has a lot of depth to it, which is fantastic. I don't like one-note mac and cheese flavors. I know even in this book, you know, Snoop Dogg says he keeps some mac and cheese, the Kraft macaroni and cheese in his house, but truthfully, I don't like that stuff very much. Maybe I'm a snob. But this mac and cheese, this stuff's on point. I'm really excited about this. All right, we're gonna swing over to our baking dish here. We're gonna add this in. I'm gonna scoop all this extra beautiful cheese sauce into here, because I don't want to lose any of it. All right. And we're gonna dump it into our prepared baking dish. You're just gonna line it with some butter, because, you know, butter. that out. I've got our oven on behind me to 400 degrees. And we're going to add the remainder of the cheese that we have here to the top. Honestly, when I was reading this recipe, I thought it seemed like a lot to add to the top. But the boss lady says so. I'm going to listen. All I know is that so far I'm really excited about all these recipes that we've made with the Snoop Dogg cookbook. I really, honestly, I bought it more as I thought it was funny and interesting, but I'm actually really excited about the other recipes that are in there. I think that they're really solid, and I've read several of them, and you really can't go wrong with it as far as cookbook goes. And I don't know if that's the Martha Stewart influence on him or not, but I mean, it's fantastic, and his take on all these, and like I said, it's a really funny and interesting book to read too. His little quips in it are hilarious. So we're going to go ahead and put this in the oven and get this nice and golden brown. We're going to put it in there for about 25 minutes. Set my timer. And dinner's almost done. All right, so now our mac and cheese is done. It's ready to go. Look at that. Nice and golden brown on top, all bubbling. It's perfect. I am super excited about this. It smells fantastic. And we are good to go. We're just gonna go ahead and plate up and take some test bites of this. It looks delicious. Good job, Snoop Dogg. I'm very excited about your recipes. Very. It's gone. Nice. Nice. Oh, wow, yum. Even the way it sounds, that is just phenomenal. A couple pieces of bread. Look at that. Nice work, Snoop Dogg. Seriously, this looks amazing. I'm gonna take a picture of it. All right, so this was a really fantastic recipe. I really enjoyed doing it. I'm a big fan of this book. I suggest you buy it, actually. Thank you so much. Hit the like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next recipe. We're basically gonna make a roux. Well, not basically, we are. We're making a roux. Apparently Snoop Dogg woman, she knows how to make a roux. Uh-oh. My pan's a little hotter than expected. So we're gonna start over.
And we're gonna set the fire alarm off.